A while back, I was teaching English in China. Feels like ages ago. I found a really unique job offer, combining my love of the outdoors with conversational English. A job which was much more suited for me rather than teaching in the grey city. I couldn't have been more excited. My boyfriend and I applied, and we were hired. They would pick us up in a van, drive us into the mountains where we would stay in a cabin. What could go wrong? When we got in the van, the driver was pissed drunk. I was young and stupid and thought I could just get a bus next time, so I tried my best not to envision driving off the mountain roads. There were two other foreigners, our new boss and his buddy. The boss and his buddy spent their time joking around and laughing with each other in Cantonese. I tried to get my mind off the driver by making small chat with the two other foreigners, who seemed uncomfortable as well. When we reached the little mountain town, we were told that we needed to get passport photos for our ID. We paid, felt scammy, but I shrugged it off. Then, I asked to use the washroom, but there was none. I had to walk down the street with my boyfriend until we found one. When we went back to the passport shop, everyone was gone. We panicked a bit and text messaged our boss, who told us that he would pick us up at 1 AM in the morning. It was 6 PM. As we stood there on the side of the street already feeling the cold, one of the guys we had met on the bus ran up. I was so relieved to see him. I asked him where our other new friend was. He had been abandoned as well and had already hopped on a bus to get out of there. My new friend told me that he spoke Cantonese. He said that these guys were bad news and that they had been talking about and laughing about their plans for me. I couldn't get him to explain any more than that. He just didn't want to tell me. The problem was, our bags were still in the van. I sent a message saying that we could wait until 1 AM, that I had medication in my bag that I needed to take now, so we needed our bags. The drunk guy shows up. He looked completely bewildered as we grabbed our bags. Our new friend helped us to get on the right bus back to the city. He was awesome. I think I thanked him profusely enough. They kept messaging me for a while, asking what happened, telling me that they still wanted me to work for them. They never messaged my boyfriend. I never responded, and I wondered what their plans were, but I don't like to think about it. And if that guy hadn't warned us, we would have probably stuck around until 1 AM. Years ago, when I was still a young mum, I became friends with a couple who lived a couple doors down, the maintenance guy, C, and his wife. My daughters called him Carmel because it was close to his name and seemed to amuse them. Anyway, shortly after we met, Carmel's wife left him and somehow I became his shoulder to cry on. He would tell me how he parked in front of the house where she was now living for 4 hours to give her roses, despite her telling him not to contact her, for instance. No matter how much I told him that he was never going to win her back by refusing to respect her requests, he kept doing things like this. Eventually, he gave up on her, I suppose, and we remained friendly, but I didn't see as much of him. I did ask him for a lift to go see my boyfriend, who was in the hospital. I did not have a car, and it was a hot summer day, so I didn't really want to walk the 2-mile trek each way. He dropped me off, and after my visit, I walked home as I originally planned, arriving home in time for my ex to drop off my daughters, all 3 of whom were in kindergarten age or younger. The following day, I was out of cigarettes. My youngest 2 were napping, and my 5-year-old was awake. I admittedly didn't use good judgment when I walked across the way to my neighbors to bum a cigarette, even if I could hear my daughters if they called out. I was gone 3 to 5 minutes. As soon as I got home, my daughter told me Carmel had called while I was gone. I called him to see what he needed.
Hey, yeah, how come you didn't call me to come and pick you up yesterday?
He asked. I told him that I didn't need a lift home, and after a minute or 2 of conversation, I hung up. As I did, my daughter said, "Mom, I don't know if you want to know, but I think you want to." I asked her what she was talking about, and she said, When Carmel called yesterday, he said that he likes to take off his clothes and play with himself, and he asked if I wanted to watch. Obviously, that was the end of my acquaintance with Carmel, but it was not the end of the story. I filed a police report, but they couldn't really take action because they said that a crime had not been committed. Okay, well, I told the apartment manager and he was fired. In the months that followed, my middle daughter started saying odd things when she woke up at night. She'd always wake up at night to go potty or to go and get a drink in her semi-conscious state, and then always settled back to sleep instantly. But now she says things like, "Carmel talked to me at the window," on several different occasions. I always went to find out if he was actually there, but never saw anyone. I wondered if it was her imagination, but every time she said it, she told me that he said he would be her friend if she let him in, and it happened every time she said he was at the window. It was scary, but I felt confident enough. After all, I was always home at night and would do anything to protect my girls. These things never happened before midnight, and I was always up until later than that. Then, one night, I hired a babysitter while I went to a dance with my boyfriend. We got home at around 10:30 or so, only to find the police at my apartment. A man had tried to convince the babysitter to open the door to him. She said that he yelled at her when she wouldn't open the door, and that he had walked around to the patio and started waggling his tongue at her through the window. So she called the police. My oldest daughter said that it was Carmel. So, even after 2 police reports, it did not end. The final incident was when I woke up to a loud pounding at my front door. I looked through the peephole and it was a police officer. I invited her in, and she said that they received a phone call about a man looking into one of the windows of my apartment. My daughter's room, that was. She said the caller had apparently startled him and he ran, but the caller was able to get a license plate number. The police officer actually gave me Carmel's real name and asked me if I knew the man. That was the last time he messed with my family, but it was not the last I heard about him. My boyfriend ran into him at a convenience store a few months later and said that Carmel acted like nothing had happened and that they were just great friends. Carmel, the stalker abuser pedophile, I hope we never meet. This past Thursday, things were rather routine at the supermarket that I work at overnight as a price checker and display manager. A co-worker was supposed to be in, but called off earlier in the day, so I was alone. I didn't mind it though. Working alone has its advantages for an introvert like myself. The night goes well. After the menial price checking and creating a couple of new displays, I'm out by 2 AM. I head home and wake up later that morning. I'm about to take a shower when the manager calls me on my cell phone and asks me if I could come in for a few minutes. I agreed, slightly confused about why, but headed out after showering and getting dressed. When I arrived, I saw a state trooper parked in the parking lot of the supermarket. Damn, something must have happened. I walk inside and go back to my manager's office, where I find my manager sitting down at a table along with the trooper and the co-worker that was supposed to be with me the previous night. At first I thought I was going to be busted for something that I didn't do, or that my co-worker and I were both screwed. As I took my seat, the trooper and my manager began to ask me a few questions regarding my night last night. I explained it was routine and uneventful. My manager then told me that he had something to show me. I sat there and watched as he turned towards his computer and pulled up some security camera footage. I sat in silence for a few seconds, wondering what was up. Then, he pulled up one of our outside cameras and pointed to something. I felt my heart drop. I looked in surprise as I watched him play the camera footage. It showed a man, dressed in all dark clothing with long hair, carrying some sort of a hat like a chulo, walking up to the store from the highway and right through the front entrance that I must have forgotten to lock. My heart sank as my manager pulled up several different camera recordings. We watched the cameras, and to my horror, I saw myself doing my night's worth of work while being completely oblivious to the man inside with me. There were moments while my manager fast forwarded where I would see the man peering around corners at me, watching me as I worked. I felt sick as I recollected my memories of the night before, walking past aisles in and out of the restroom and even walking outside on my breaks, while being unaware that somebody was silently in my vicinity at all times watching me. I was surprised to learn though that I didn't seem to be the man's main focus. After only showing me a little bit of footage, my manager seized and explained that the man was seemingly walking around like a zombie around the store, not stealing anything, not stalking me, just walking aimlessly. Having only watched about a couple of minutes of footage, I still felt like I was going to vomit and asked if I could leave. When the trooper asked if I knew who it was, I stated that I have never seen him before. My manager told me that he's going to have an assistant manager work with me for the next week or so, and not to worry about anything. As I got in my car and left, I couldn't help but wonder what the man's motive was. He wasn't looking to steal anything, nor was he focused on me the entire time. That's what creeps me out, not knowing.